Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio, biz talk for biz owners. During the next half hour, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth, a leading business advisor and two-time best-selling author, will cover topics that'll help business owners run their companies more profitably and more efficiently. Get ready to stop faking the funk and take your business onward and upward. This show is for you. And now, here's Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth.
All right, welcome to another episode of Mr. Biz Radio with me, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth, and up with new things for the show. I know you guys that are loyal listeners and watchers on YouTube know that we had Mr. Grant Cardone, one of the stars of Undercover Billionaire, on the show a couple of weeks ago. And wouldn't you know it, posting things on social media and whatnot, I got connected with someone else who's on the show that those of you who are watching will be very familiar with. And so I said, you know, one of my prophecies that I always mention is, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So I said, hey, would you like to come on the show? I'd love to get sort of the behind the scenes and some of the different things. A lot of us know Grant Cardone. Those of us who follow him know Grant Cardone, but how many of us know Lewis Curtis, which is his name in the show, is sort of alter ego or the what he goes by on the show. And so with that, I wanted to bring on the show Matt Smith, who's the primary person that Grant Cardone partners, or Lewis Curtis partners with during the show. So Matt, let me give you a little bit of a brief intro here. So Matt is Mr. Business Owner Extraordinaire. So he is the owner, co-founder of Wake Up Pueblo. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. The Snooze Sleep Company, Pueblo's best total home services, Mr. Penguin, Pueblo's best carpet cleaning. And of course, he owns a couple Snap Fitnesses as well, which if you're watching the show, you notice that as well. So with all that said, welcome to the show, Matt.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. It's awesome. I see all the amazing things you're doing out there, and just appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah. So look, I should mention a couple of things. And so for those of you watching on YouTube, hint, hint, if you didn't know, you can watch the show on YouTube as well. I made a special little background for the show for Matt. So I wanted to mention real quick too, Matt just had a book come out and released called Dadpreneur. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more too, but Serial Dadpreneur. So I want to talk a little bit about that as well, but I want to make sure we mention that book because it's something that, you know, the vast majority of our listeners would be able to benefit from, male and female. So I want to mention that. But we're going to talk about some of the secrets behind the scenes of Undercover Billionaire. We're going to talk about some Lewis Curtis, some stuff and some impressions that Matt had. Before we get into all that though, Matt, again, I just outlined a lot of different things you're doing in the business. Tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that introduction. Some of those businesses, I've actually sold a few of those recently. But I'm an entrepreneur here in town. I've been in the fitness industry for a long time. I've been in the mattress industry for almost 20 years. Wake Up Pueblo is something that's new to us, a big marketing company we can talk about a little bit as well. But I do this real estate, a lot of commercial real estate and residential real estate development here locally too. So, you know, I'm just a Pueblo passionate person. I'm a family man. I got a beautiful wife, Jenny, and 3 children, 2 boys and a little girl. And that's my why. That's the reason I do what I do. But I enjoy the thrill of being an entrepreneur. I enjoy the thrill of being a dad even more. And I'm enjoying this journey we call life. So, you know, I'm blessed to be on the ride, and I appreciate you having me on the show today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll tell you guys, listeners, you guys hear me talk all the time about, you know, I'm a huge fan of Jesse Itzler. And I'll tell you, my impression of Matt, not only from the show, but from following Matt on social media, is he's like a junior Jesse Itzler. I don't know, Matt, if you follow him at all, but he shares a lot of, you should follow him. You would love him. He is big time entrepreneur, has closed out. He's a billionaire. His wife is Sarah Blakely, who started Spanx. They share tons of stuff, family related things on social media. And that's what reminded me since the last several weeks that I've been following you on social media and seeing on Instagram, on your stories and things like that, a lot of the family related things you share, and the fact that you're a successful business person, entrepreneur. Literally, I was telling my wife last night that I said, yeah, I'm going to interview Matt Smith tomorrow on the show. And I told her, I said, yeah. And I got her following Jesse Itzler and Sarah Blakely on social media. And I told her, I said, you got to follow him. He's a lot like Jesse, some of the things he shares. So definitely appreciate that. And anyone who listens to the show knows I'm a massive Jesse Itzler fan. So that is a huge, huge compliment. Really a big.
Well, thank you.
Big fan of his. So let's talk a little bit. We got about 4 minutes left in the segment here. So let's talk a little bit about the book. How did the book come to fruition?
The book has been something I've been trying to write for a while, and I'm just not a writer, so it was so painful to get this done. And when COVID hit, it was one of those things that I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's get this thing out there. And then obviously strategically, I wanted to wait until the show came out a little bit before I released it and got it all done. But the whole premise of the book is making sure you have that balance. There's so many people that are really good at being a father that forget about their dreams, and so many people that are really good about being an entrepreneur or business leader that leave their family behind. So it's really about having that balance in between, and just things that I think I've learned a lot in my career and in my life, and just lessons and stuff that I've learned is really what the book's premise is all about. Like just trying to figure out where that balance. It's different for everybody, but it's very, very important to, make sure that you continue to say family first through the whole journey, but, don't forget about your dreams and everything else either. So.
Because I agree with you 100%. A lot of people are really focused on one side or the other. And I feel the same way. If you're too focused on one side or the other, you're missing out. You get the, gosh, it's going to date me for sure, but that song "Cats in the Cradle." If you focus too much on the business and you get to where, your kids are 25, 30 years old, and all of a sudden you miss their whole childhood. And, I say it all the time to my wife, there are no do-overs. You can't go back and go, oh, you know what? I missed all those sports events and the choirs and all. So let's just go back. Now I'm successful and I have the money and I have the time. Let me go back and see all this stuff. It's too late. You already spent that.
Yeah, and my dad, that's funny because that's my dad's story. Now we have a great relationship, but I didn't know my dad for 18 years. He left to go make money, and my mom struggled as a single mother of 2 boys. So we never had any financial gain or anything as a kid. So it was like the perfect storm for me to say, like, I saw how much love she had for her children, but financially, sometimes we couldn't even pay the electric bill. And then my dad was out there not really being a dad, but trying to figure out how to get money out there in the world, which, again, we built a great relationship now with his grandkids, but he'll admit it, it was a tough time. So.
Super important. Yeah. And I guess, again, I don't know your dad, but I would say when you said he wasn't being a dad, being a father, as in with you and any of your siblings or whatever, but he was trying to provide for his family. So I guess I'll defend him a little bit there, right? He was trying to do the right thing on that side, just maybe missed out on the other side of the equation. So yeah, I guess you had that sort of perfect training ground to write a book like this.
Yeah, and just to be who I am, like to make sure that I will never not be at some of my kids' games or dances or whatever it is. And I want to make sure my kids can have the financial freedom to be vacation and do things that they want to be able to do and not have to worry about not being able to write that check for football or for sports or something like that. So that, that really is my why on this whole thing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I played basketball and everything, and I remember I was telling someone one time, a friend of mine, I was giving him some feedback, like, "Hey, why aren't your kids' game?" He was at a happy hour, and his kid had a game. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'll tell you, I remember every game that my parents were not at when I was in high school, even in high school, and I'm way past high school. I remember the games they weren't at, even all these years later." So I said, "Man, you can't miss out." He literally was like, "You got to be kidding me." Yeah. Finished the rest of his beer, took off, went to the game. So it was good.
Good for you. I love it.
All right. So if you want to find out more about that, you can find out more about the book at serialdadpreneur.com. And cereal spelled like the breakfast food, I should mention, serialdadpreneur.com. And we're going to hit the break here. We're going to come back, give the Mr. Biz tip of the week. And then we're going to continue talking with Matt Smith, co-star of Undercover Billionaire.
Business owners have a continually growing to-do list with little time for revenue-producing activities. With Check Off Your List and their experienced team of virtual assistants, you can focus on growing your business. Visit checkoffyourlist.com to learn how Check Off Your List's skilled team can handle your day-to-day tasks like social media, bookkeeping, calendar maintenance, and much more. Contact Check Off Your List at checkoffyourlist.com or call 888-262-1249 to see how their virtual assistants can help you live to work rather than work to live.
Thank you for listening to Mr. Biz Radio. Did you know our show airs 7 days a week for more than 30 hours now? If you are in the B2B space and would like to reach thousands of business owners every week, including our more than 250,000 social media followers, our thousands of daily internet radio listeners, our email list fans, and Mr. Biz Solutions members, email us at info@MrBizSolutions.com to become a sponsor. Tap into Mr. Biz Nation to help grow your business.
Check out both of Mr. Biz's national best-selling books, Pathway to Profits and How to Be a Cash Flow Pro on Amazon. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. Before we get to Mr. Biz tip of the week, I wanted to mention, are you tired of waiting 60 plus days for customers to pay invoices? If so, invoice financing through Porter Capital can provide cash flow help in as little as 24 hours. To get the working capital you need when you need it, visit portercap.com/Mr. Biz to apply for a free quote today. Good people there can help you through some cash flow challenges if you have those. Mr. Biz tip of the week is, and I'm sure Matt would, this will hit home for Matt, I'm sure. If you want to almost instantly improve your profitability, don't mind your manners, but mind your margins. Mind your margins. MYM. Very, very important. You guys have heard me talk about this on the show a bunch of different times, but not just a gross margin, but also the net margin, what ends up in your pocket at the end of the day. Definitely, that's a way to really make sure that the jobs, services, products you provide are at the margins they should be, and you're making the profitability, you're at the profitability levels you should be. Super, super important. That is the Mr. Biz tip of the week. So let's get back into talking with Matt here. So we talked a little bit about the book. Let's move a little into Undercover Billionaire, right? So I'm really curious, especially because the way it started out, episode 1, Grant hits the town, hits Pueblo, goes to the RV, gets hooked up with you, goes to meet you, and you're like, what are the cameras here for? Like, what the heck's going on here? And so walk us through, what was your impression when all that was going on?
Yeah, so I'm actually here at Snap Fitness right now behind us, but that was, when Lewis Curtis came in here, Ryan Vukovic, I think, as everybody's seen on the show, if you've been watching the show, he's a personal friend of mine, and Ryan was like, hey, if you're looking to do some business or whatever, go see Matt. And then Ryan texted me. He was like, hey, some guy's going to come there and there's some cameras. I'm not even sure what's going on, but I sent him your way. And, I told him he's looking for a gym right now. So I showed up thinking maybe a camera or two. Like, I've been on a few little, but now I know it's the Discovery Channel, but there was cameras in every corner. There was people everywhere. There's drones flying around. I'm like, okay, so something special is going on here. But that was the first impression, was very like, and then this guy comes to me, he's like, hey, I'm Lewis, pleasure to meet you. And it was very like, okay, what's going on? I mean, what's your purpose? And I definitely had a lot of questions, and I a lot of unknown there.
Yeah, but so for those of you who haven't watched yet, go out to Discovery Plus app, download it. It's like, I don't know, it's like $5 a month or something like that. So even if you've missed the first 4, I think, episodes have been shown now, 5. You can catch up, you can speed watch them, you can binge watch them really quick. But literally that was the first impression that Lewis Curtis has. And the first thing Matt did was like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with this. And so, if you watch the show, and I don't want to ruin it if you haven't seen it, but Lewis gets kind of ticked off. He's like, these dang cameras are ruining it. I got to make a connection with this guy, Matt Smith. He's my ticket. He's the guy I want to partner with, et cetera, et cetera. And these stupid cameras are messing me up. And so what made you give him a second chance?
I mean, there's no doubt the guy was super awesome. The guy had a cool story. He was very passionate. The little bit I talked to him that the cameras didn't show, he told me his story about coming here to Pueblo, wanting to give back to this community, wanting to bring his family here to Pueblo, Colorado, and get out of the rat race of LA. So obviously they had to have a backstory, but I could tell within a few minutes of meeting the guy that there was some passion there, and that he wanted to make a difference in this community. And anybody that knows me knows how much I love Pueblo, Colorado, and how much passion I have for this community. So then it was like, well, whatever's going on right now, if done right, this could be pretty special for our community. So, and again, he's a passionate human being. You can't not love Lewis Curtis, AKA Grant Cardone, when you meet the guy.
Yeah, I could get that. I totally get that. So it's interesting. So they Matt and Lewis Grant start working together. Matt is impressed enough. By the way, how crazy did you guys think he was during the snooze mattress when he's out flagging down cars with the during that promotion?
Yeah, you didn't see any of it either. Like, that show did not show how crazy that day was, but I got my first and only really bad review that day because somebody was so mad that we were throwing flyers inside of their car and they were honking it. But we were literally, at one point, my wife had jumped inside of a convertible and drove back to snooze so this lady would come over and try a mattress for the first time. we stopped cars, traffic here. We were at gas stations, grabbing people, pulling them over. We were at the dollar store across the street. So we were literally, the energy was just amazing. And Ryan Zabukovic came out that day. We saw him and recruited him to go help out flyers. We had our warehouse guys. So it was just a really fun day. And what you saw being crazy was 10 times more crazy than that, for sure.
Oh, I can imagine. But, you know, I think the interesting part for me was, again, you know, even what I mentioned at the outset of the show is, you know, the Grant Cardone versus Lewis Curtis. You know, those of us who follow Grant and have followed him on social media, you know, you get to know his persona a bit because he shares so much. But knowing that this guy's, you know, owns his own jet and all, and he's out in the middle of the street flagging down cars and things like that, it just goes to show you, like, he's going to do what it takes to be successful, whatever that is.
Yeah, and now that I follow Grant and I've gotten pretty close to Grant, you know, I watch his stuff. And just like you said, the one thing I could tell any one of his audience is that guy does not just talk the talk. So many people out there just stand on a stage and say, do this, do this. Like, no, Grant Cardone walks the walk 100%. That guy does whatever it takes to win. And as this show keeps progressing, you'll see a lot more of that. I'm with you and the viewers watching this. I've never seen any of this before. So I'm always like, oh, I didn't know that he was intimidated to come meet me. I didn't know what happened before that meeting. I was just in the meeting, you know? So I never saw what was happening in the RV park. I didn't see the house stuff. All of this stuff, I'm watching at the same time you guys are. So it's been fun for me to go, he is a human. And there's a lot of other side of that story before that. I saw a confident guy walking into my office, but before that, there was, you know, obviously there was some reservations before he even came see me.
Yeah. So we've only got about 2 minutes, so we're going to hit a break again. But I'm curious, what was your feeling? Because you didn't know any of this stuff was going on. And then what happened when they had to shut down production for COVID and he comes to you? I mean, how did that conversation go? You had just given him an advance check for 10 grand. And he's like, hey, by the way, I got to leave town. Like, how did that work out?
Yeah, that was, you know, I think maybe a lot of Americans, including myself and definitely Lewis or Grant, we thought this was kind of just going to blow over. We were like, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Like, this isn't that big of a deal. I think at the beginning of this, it was like all this hype and we thought it was just a bunch of hype. And then it really became a real deal. So it was, our parting ways was more of a high five. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. That this all blows over. I'll see you soon. And we'll get back to where this was. And then after he was gone, it became a lot more of a big deal. Then we're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to see this guy again. Like, I have no idea if I'll ever see him again. And that really went through my mind. So it was like, it is what it is. That was cool. Whatever was going on, it was cool when it happened, you know?
Yeah. Well, so were you watching your bank account to see if he cashed that $10,000 check?
You bet you I did. Yeah, I did. And he was very, you know, he told me that. He was like, I would not cash this check until I proved to you what I can do. So I'll hold on to it until I can prove to you otherwise. So that meant a lot to me. That was a big trust builder for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. That's a big deal because especially in that situation, I'm surprised he didn't instantly run out because, you know, as you see now during the show, they're tabulating his net worth as they're going along. And so for him to cash that check, pretty interesting. So again, this week we're talking with Matt Smith, who is a co-star of Undercover Billionaire with Grant Cardone / Lewis Curtis, as well as a couple of other women who will be coming up on the show here in the next few weeks, Elaine and Monique. But I want to mention again his book that's just been out here a couple of weeks called Serial Dadpreneur. It's cereal spelled like the breakfast cereal. SerialDadpreneur.com. Go out and check it out. It gives you the secret to building your multiple 7-figure empire. Think about this. How would your business and personal life change if you knew you could make success the only option? Those are the kind of things you can learn and you can find out in the book. Again, SerialDadpreneur.com. Cereal like the breakfast cereal. Come back after the break. We're going to continue talking with Matt. We're going to find out some more behind the scenes from Undercover Billionaire, as well as talk about some of the impact that it's had for the city of Pueblo, Colorado. Let's come back after the break on Mr. Biz Radio.
Are you looking for ways to streamline your business? If so, Pulse can help. Pulse is the CRM and marketing automation platform with many features, such as email and text message marketing, project boards, quoting and invoicing, and so much more. If you're a franchise, we also have a franchise-specific version with robust franchise management capabilities. Request your demo today at thepulsespot.com. Again, that's the Pulse, P-U-L-S-E, spot.com.
If you find listening to Mr. Biz Radio is helpful, imagine having live access to not only Mr. Biz, but also 5 other trusted business experts. It's true. You can have live access to your very own CFO, plus a business attorney, a website and digital marketing expert, a sales and growth guru, a financing professional, and a customer experience master. Visit MrBizSolutions.com to learn more. Join Mr. Biz Nation at MrBizSolutions.com.
To submit questions to the show, email them to info@MrBizSolutions.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. And for those watching on YouTube, you probably just saw me. I just realized I'm actually on video scrambling around here. So we had a little bit of an interesting time this time. I'm keeping the clock for the show on my cell phone. And so I'm struggling and it keeps going black on me. So I have to keep like paying attention to it. So if I look distracted, those watching on video, that's why, including you, Matt. If you're like, what the heck is this guy doing? No, the dang thing keeps going black on me. I should have figured that out beforehand. But nonetheless, so again, talking with Matt Smith again, SerialDadpreneur.com. Go check out his book that just came out. I'm very, very certain. I haven't read the book yet, full disclosure, but I'm very certain that based on what I read about the book, it would be very applicable for almost everyone who listens to this show. So go out and check that out, SerialDadpreneur.com. So Matt, I got to ask you, so at any point in time, were you suspicious of Grant's background? Now, I know we've seen, I think it was maybe two shows ago where he came to you with 3 ideas, and one of them was a commercial real estate deal. And all of a sudden you were like, how much background do you have with this? You know, so were you, at any point in time, were you suspicious or like, wait a minute, what the heck's going on here?
Absolutely. I mean, I would be lying if I wasn't suspicious. There was so many different things, even with the cast and the crew. Like they had new Facebook pages and Instagram pages, and I became really close to the crew. And as I learned that they all had fake names, so they were all putting this stuff on too. There was so much more to it than just Lewis putting this on. They all had to have a different Facebook page, Instagram page. And when you make friends, you try to go find them and you're like, hey, who is this? And then they had like 5 followers or 12 followers. You're like, wait, son, what? But, I will tell you that I learned early on in this show to just shut my mouth and embrace this because something special was going on. And that's I had people from this entire community every day texting me like, what is this camera crew and what's going on in our community? And someone's going to take advantage of you, Matt. Someone's going to screw you and take your money. I could just feel it. And I'm like, no, I think the opposite. I think something special is happening right now. So it was definitely, I just learned to embrace it and have some fun and not ask too many questions.
Well, that's interesting because I didn't even think about that. The crew is so true, right? Like you said, you become friends with them and all of a sudden you connect with them on Instagram and you're like, wait a minute, he works for Discovery. And then you connect with another person. They're like, they work for Discovery. You're like, wait a minute. I didn't even think about that part of it. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And when you have a team of marketers and just everybody, I mean, when you have all these different teams and different businesses, everybody's suspicious for me. Like everybody had my back. So they're all trying to do their own research. Like, who's this American Pride that's doing this thing? And American Pride did an amazing job. The Discovery Channel had their own website for this documentary for Pueblo. Like they had created their backstory before they even showed up. So they were very good at what they did. And so was Lewis Curtis. Like he had his stories figured out. I could see now on the show that he talked to himself like Lewis Curtis before he came and met me every time. So he wouldn't screw that up. Like he had to play the part, but they played such an amazing part. Like they did a very, very good job, all of them involved, to make sure that this they didn't blow the cover. Interesting.
Yeah. Like I said, I hadn't even thought about that aspect to it. So give me one sort of behind the scenes funny Lewis Curtis thing, a quirk or some little anecdote or something like that maybe we haven't seen or probably won't see.
Oh yeah. There's so many of them. And I don't know that. The hardest part for this is literally, I feel like I'm on camera for 1,000 hours and they're going to pick like 14 hours of that. So I don't know what they're going to play and what they're not going to play.
Yeah.
I mean, anywhere from an RV broke down and me and him had to push it on the side of the road to we jumped in the river walk together. I mean, there's so many things that are coming up that I can't like spoil, but like, you should have seen him at Safeway. Like this guy was just an animal, grabbing flyers and sticking them in cars and jumping in people's cars. And he was so fun to watch, and he just success breeds success. And that energy was the same thing. He just brought such an energy. So, but I also saw the goods, bads, and uglies. Like he's a human too. He got tired, he got grouchy sometimes. Like there was just, he's just like everybody else. He's a human out there.
Yeah, it's funny. So Elena does that a lot of times she'll share on social media, and it's funny. I think they play like a little game with each other. She'll share it on her Instagram story and she'll be like, oh, everyone's favorite billionaire, Grant Cardone, look at him. And he's like, it's like 3 PM and he's laying in bed with a hoodie on and the hoodie's pulled down over his face, taking a nap. And she's like, oh yeah, he's not invincible, you know?
Oh, that's great. I need to follow that.
Yeah. It's always interesting to see those kind of things. So let's talk a little bit about what has been the impact, not only during filming, you mentioned some of that, but even post-filming, now that the show's airing, what's been the impact on Pueblo?
It's been unbelievable. Like, it has just been a beautiful thing. Like, the buzz around this community and the hype of, even how Wake Up came about. Like, there's so much stuff that's about to come out, but just to highlight this beautiful community in so many different ways. And I think that the storyline so far has been very positive. It's shown the how cool our community is. So very, very good. And the other thing about this is I don't know if the viewers know, but that they've pulled it back from the Discovery Channel, and it's only on the Discovery app. But I talked to Tim Warren last week, and they're going to push it 10 times heavier back on the Discovery Channel in the next 30 days or so. So they're just trying to build the right momentum, piggyback with the right show, because this is going to be one of their flagships, and they have a lot riding on this show. But they released it during, obviously, election time, so they pulled back, and now they're going to re-release it all. So I think Pueblo's going to get the little bit from the app, but then when the show really releases, it's going to be just a whole second buzz out here. So it's been great. I mean, the interviews like this have been going all over the world to just talk about this community. Businesses, I had lunch at one of our local businesses yesterday, and he was like, I'm up 20% during COVID. Like, business is booming. And I attribute a lot of the stuff that you guys are doing to help this community grow and highlight it. So that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. And I think that's one of the side sort of tangential benefits of Undercover Billionaire is they're not picking the New York Cities and the Houstons and Chicagos and things. They're picking some of these other, mid-sized towns that maybe could use a boost. And so hopefully that's helping, the first season with Glenn Stearns and Erie, this season with obviously Pueblo and Tacoma and Fresno. So it's interesting to hear that sort of firsthand and see and hear the benefits of that. And I'm glad to hear that those are happening for those cities.
Yeah, and I think it's for generations to come. I really do. I think it's gonna help a ripple for a long term for even local talented, people here in our community to see, wow, this is actually really cool. Like, some people think that they got to leave, So we've been trying a lot, with Wake Up and with other things to highlight that stuff.
Yeah, well, definitely glad to hear all that stuff and glad to hear that, like I said, that positive impact. It's just one of those things that maybe as you're watching the show, you don't realize. And I'm also very happy to hear. So I obviously got the app. I wasn't going to miss any of the shows, but I've had some friends of mine who had never followed Grant before. They knew that I followed him. They know I'd gone to GrowthCon and all that good stuff. And then they saw me interview him. And they're like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. Well, then they watched the first couple and they're like, when's the next one coming out? I'm like, oh, it's been out. It's on the app. And they're like, you got to be kidding me. So I'm glad to hear they're going to pull it back on to Discovery Channel. I think that'll help a lot.
Yeah, that's what they said. That's where their biggest viewers. But I think America, the world is in this weird TV versus app time right now. And it's all getting cut and it's all going that. So they know that. The show happens to be right in the middle of that when everybody's pushing their apps now. So they're going to build that up and then they're going to re-release it on the TV. And I think that's where the big buzz will come from for sure.
Yeah. Well, as we're talking about a boost for these cities and everything, I should mention, I got to throw in one of my live reads in here. So do you lack the cash flow needed to expand your business, but you don't maybe meet the qualifications of a traditional bank loan? Invoice financing with Porter Capital can help you get the working capital you need when you need it. Visit portercap.com/Mr. Biz to apply for a free quote today. I'm going to keep mentioning those guys, especially now during COVID and a lot of these businesses struggling, especially with cash flow. It's a very good option to consider. Matt, we're almost out of time, unfortunately. Again, I will mention serialdadpreneur.com, again, spelled like the breakfast cereal, serialdadpreneur.com to find out more about his book. You can find out the secret to building your multiple seven-figure empire. Matt, I really, really, really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been fantastic having you.
It's been an absolute honor. I'm going to follow all the stuff you've got. I appreciate all you do for the communities out there and the stories that you continue to tell.
No, it's great. So again, we've been talking this week with Matt Smith, talking about secrets of Undercover Billionaire, talking about his book that's just come out, Serial Dadpreneur. Really appreciate him coming on the show. Have a great week, everyone. And don't forget, as always, cash flow is king.